Why do men fall in love in ways that seem mysterious, almost coded, following patterns they themselves don't fully grasp? Sigmund Freud uncovered something groundbreaking over a century ago. Masculine love doesn't spring from the heart, but from the deepest layers of the unconscious mind, where childhood memories, suppressed longings, and primal drives play their hidden games. While women often believe men fall in love spontaneously, the male psyche follows complex unconscious patterns so powerful they determine the happiness or misery of entire relationships without anyone noticing. Today, you'll decode the hidden mechanisms of masculine love and understand why men idealize certain women, overlook others, and sometimes even fear them. Freud's insights will open your eyes to a world that lies directly before you, but usually remains in the shadows. If you're ready to explore the secrets of the human heart, subscribe to the channel and join us on this journey into the depths of the soul. Sigmund Freud sat in his Viennese study, listening to his patients' confessions, when something extraordinary caught his attention. Men spoke differently about love than women, not just in words, but in how their unconscious minds operated. What he discovered revolutionized our understanding of gender dynamics forever. Freud realized men don't fall in love with women themselves. They fall in love with images, projections, unconscious fantasies they transfer onto women. This insight sounds harsh, but it explains why so many relationships fail before they truly begin. Picture this: a man sees a woman and is instantly fascinated. What really happens in that moment? His consciousness registers externals, appearance, voice, movement, but his unconscious works feverishly to fit this woman into a schema deeply rooted in his psyche, a schema formed in earliest childhood, shaped by his first and most important relationship, the one with his mother. The masculine psyche operates on the principle of repetition. Freud called it the compulsion to repeat, the unconscious tendency to seek familiar patterns, even when they're painful. A man who had a controlling mother will often be drawn to dominant women, though he consciously seeks gentleness. A man who experienced emotional coldness chases unattainable women because closeness feels unconsciously foreign to him. These patterns are so powerful they can completely overshadow rational partner choice. Freud observed how intelligent, successful men repeatedly made the same wrong decisions, choosing partners who mirrored their deepest wounds instead of healing them. Particularly fascinating is the masculine tendency toward idealization. While women often pragmatically focus on compatibility, men unconsciously create goddesses, projecting perfection onto women who can never fulfill it. This idealization isn't a sign of great love. It's a protective mechanism. By elevating a woman, a man keeps her at distance. True intimacy would mean seeing the real person, with all her flaws and humanity. Freud also discovered the paradoxical nature of masculine attraction. Men are often most strongly drawn to what they most fear. The man who hates dependency falls for a woman who promises total devotion. The man who needs control is magnetically attracted to chaotic, unpredictable women. These mechanisms operate completely unconsciously. Men are often totally unaware of their own motives, and therefore can't explain why they make certain decisions. They speak of chemistry, love at first sight, or gut feeling, without realizing that complex psychological structures guide their actions. For women, this behavior is often confusing and hurtful. They experience how men idealize them and then feel disappointed when reality doesn't match the fantasy. They sense they're not being seen as whole humans, but as projection screens for masculine desires and fears. The tragic part is both genders suffer under these unconscious patterns. Men miss real connections because they chase phantoms. Women feel misunderstood and reduced to roles that don't match their true personalities. Yet Freud's insight also holds hope, because what happens unconsciously can be made conscious. Men can learn to recognize and dissolve their projections, discovering what they truly seek and why they seek it. Freud revolutionized our understanding of love with an insight that still disturbs today. Every man carries the image of his mother within him, and this image determines whom he loves and whom he avoids. The famous Oedipus complex isn't just a theory from dusty textbooks, but a living force operating in every cafe, every bar, every dating app. Imagine a successful businessman who repeatedly encounters women who criticize and correct him. His friends wonder why he puts himself through this. The answer lies in his childhood. His mother was loving, but also very demanding, praising him only when he was perfect. Unconsciously, he now seeks women who repeat this familiar pattern, love with conditions. Freud recognized that a man's first love relationship becomes the blueprint for all that follow. This first relationship is with his mother. Here he learns what love means. Is it unconditional, or must it be earned? Is it safe or unpredictable? Is it suffocating or nourishing? The Oedipus complex functions on a paradoxical principle. A man seeks both closeness to the maternal figure and liberation from her. This inner conflict manifests in confusing relationship patterns. Some men are drawn to women who resemble their mothers, not physically, but in their essence, their way of loving or controlling. Other men seem to seek the opposite of their mother, but this too is Oedipus at work. They rebel against the maternal model by choosing women who are completely different. Yet this rebellion is just the flip side of the coin. They're still chained to the mother image, just with reversed signs. It becomes particularly complex with men who had an ambivalent relationship with their mother. These men often show a pattern that deeply confuses women. They idealize a woman, but become anxious or aggressive once real closeness develops. Unconsciously, they fear falling back into maternal dependency from which they once had to free themselves. A classic example, a man falls head over heels for a warm, caring woman, but the more she cares for him, the more he withdraws. His friends don't understand it. She doesn't understand it, but Freud's analysis makes it clear. The mother image is activated, and with it the old fears of engulfment and loss of control. The Oedipus complex also explains why some men fall in love with unreachable women. The married colleague, the woman who makes it clear she's unavailable, the femme fatale with many admirers. They all offer something familiar, a love that can never be fully possessed, just like the mother who was loved but could never belong to him. Freud observed another fascinating phenomenon. Men often unconsciously divide women into two categories: the saint and the whore. The saint represents the pure, unreachable mother who may be worshipped but not desired. The whore embodies forbidden sexuality that may be desired but not respected. This split prevents men from seeing women as complete human beings. The modern man carries these archaic patterns within him without knowing it. He believes he's choosing rationally, but his unconscious follows a script written decades ago. Yet whoever recognizes his Oedipal patterns can begin to dissolve them. In his famous treatment room on Berggasse, Freud observed a phenomenon that deeply fascinated him. Men didn't fall in love with women. They fell in love with their own soul images, which they projected onto women. This insight reveals one of the most tragic yet hopeful truths about love. Imagine, a man meets a woman and is immediately smitten. In his eyes she begins to glow. He sees qualities in her that others don't see. For him, she's unique, perfect, the one. What's really happening here? His unconscious has projected an inner image onto her. He doesn't see her but his soul dream in human form. This projection is so powerful it completely overlays reality. Freud documented cases where men attributed qualities to women they never possessed. One patient raved about the natural elegance of his beloved, a woman others experienced as rather coarse. Another worshipped the intellectual depth of a person primarily interested in superficial things. The insidious thing about projection: it initially works like magic. The woman feels the man's intense attention and worship. She feels seen and valued like never before. Many women describe this moment as intoxicating. Finally, someone who recognizes their true greatness. But they don't suspect they're actually invisible, covered by masculine fantasies. Freud recognized that this idealization serves various unconscious functions. First, it protects the man from the fear of real intimacy. As long as he worships a goddess, he doesn't have to deal with a real person. The idealized woman is safe. She can't really hurt him because she doesn't really exist. Second, idealization serves narcissistic confirmation. If he's conquered the most wonderful woman in the world, that makes him the most exceptional man. His partner choice becomes a mirror of his own grandiosity. That's why external impression is often so important. The woman should adorn his ego like a precious accessory. Third, projection allows the man to connect with his own repressed soul aspects. What he worships in the woman, her sensitivity, intuition, emotionality, are often qualities he rejects or fears in himself. The drama begins when reality breaks through the projections. The deified woman shows herself as a human with moods, weaknesses, and her own needs. She contradicts him, criticizes him, or shows sides that don't fit his ideal image. In this moment, idealization often flips into its opposite, devaluation. Freud observed how quickly men could switch from sky-high jubilation to mortal sadness. The same woman who was an angel yesterday is experienced as a disappointment today. She changed, the men complain. But in truth, she was always the same, only the glasses through which she was viewed changed. This dynamic is often traumatizing for women. They experience an emotional roller coaster for which they have no explanation. Yesterday worshipped, today ignored or devalued. Many women begin to doubt their own perception. The tragedy of projection lies in its prevention of real love. True love requires seeing and appreciating the other as an independent person. As long as a man only loves his own soul images, he remains trapped in narcissistic self-reference. Freud was a master at deciphering hidden messages. In his treatment room, he learned that people constantly communicate but rarely mean what they say. This insight revolutionized his understanding of love. Men constantly send signals that reveal their true feelings and intentions, but these signals are so subtle and contradictory that even attentive women often completely misunderstand them. The unconscious knows no lies. While a man may consciously appear charming and interested, his unconscious betrays his true motives through the smallest gestures, word choices, and behaviors. Freud called these revelations parapraxes, seemingly random slips of the tongue, forgetting, or actions that actually speak deeper truths. Consider a typical case. A man courts a woman intensively. He showers her with attention, gifts, and compliments. She feels flattered and begins to open up to him. But then she notices strange contradictions. He forgets important appointments with her, but never his business meetings. He doesn't really listen when she talks about her problems. He doesn't introduce her to his friends or mentions her only casually. These apparent oversights are no coincidences. The man's unconscious is communicating his true attitude. She's not really important to him. The conscious courtship serves other purposes, perhaps conquest, ego boost, or compensation for his own insecurities. But his emotional investment is low, and this shows in 100 small details. Freud also discovered the phenomenon of transference in love relationships. Men unconsciously transfer feelings and expectations from previous relationships onto the current partner. A man who was betrayed by his ex-girlfriend will treat the new partner with jealousy and suspicion, even if she never gave him reason for it. His reactions don't fit the current situation, but an inner drama that's constantly repeated. A particularly revealing signal is how men talk about their past. Freud recognized that the stories people tell about their lives reveal more about their present conflicts than actual events. A man who describes all his ex-partners as crazy or too needy reveals his own fear of emotional intimacy. The timing patterns of masculine communication are also highly revealing. When does he contact her? When is he available? When not? Freud would say there are no random appointments. A man who always contacts her only late at night unconsciously communicates that the woman occupies a subordinate place in his life. Particularly revealing are moments when men become authentic. This often happens under alcohol influence, in stress situations, or when they feel unobserved. Suddenly, other personality aspects break through. The charming seducer becomes the controlling patriarch. The empathetic listener reveals himself as a narcissistic self-presenter. Freud also observed that men often do the opposite of what they consciously intend. A man who insists how important the relationship is to him sabotages it through his behavior. A man who swears eternal faithfulness flirts demonstratively with others. This self-sabotage springs from inner conflicts the man himself doesn't understand. Body language often reveals the truth behind words. A man may say he feels relaxed, but his body is tense and turned away. His hands are clenched into fists, his gaze wanders, his voice sounds controlled rather than natural. Women often have an intuitive perception of these inconsistencies, but they don't trust their feelings. Freud made a disturbing discovery. Many men don't fall in love with other people, but with mirror images of themselves. This narcissistic love is so widespread, it's become the norm. Yet it harbors a tragic secret. It makes true intimacy impossible and transforms relationships into lonely theater performances. The narcissistic man loves in a woman what he admires or misses in himself. If he's successful, he seeks a woman who reflects his status, beautiful, elegant, enviable. If he's insecure, he chooses a partner who admires him and confirms his grandiosity. In both cases, the woman serves as a living mirror of his self-image. Freud recognized that this type of love has deeply rooted origins. Every person goes through a phase of primary narcissism in early childhood. He's the center of his world, omnipotent and perfect. Normally, this narcissism is corrected by reality. The child learns he's not omnipotent, and other people are independent beings with their own needs. In some men, however, part of this infantile narcissism remains. They never fully go through the painful but necessary process of disillusionment. As adults, they then seek partners who nourish their narcissistic grandiosity fantasies instead of correcting them. This shows in characteristic patterns. The narcissistic man needs constant admiration and confirmation. His partner should adore him, like a fan adores a star. Her own needs, dreams, and problems are only interesting if they serve his self-image. If she tells him about professional successes that overshadow his, he unconsciously becomes competitive or devaluing. Particularly perfidious is the narcissistic type of empathy. These men can indeed appear empathetic, but only when it serves their self-presentation. They comfort their partner not out of compassion, but because it shows them as wonderful people. Their empathy is performative, not authentic. That's why it collapses as soon as real sacrifices are demanded. Freud also observed the phenomenon of narcissistic injury in relationships. When the partner doesn't see the man as he sees himself, violent reactions arise. A man who considers himself generous becomes angry when she experiences him as stingy. A man who thinks he's charming is hurt when she finds him boring. These injuries are often interpreted as attacks on the relationship when they're actually attacks on the fragile self-image. Narcissistic object choice usually follows one of two patterns. Either the man chooses a woman similar to him, same status, same values, same charisma. This mirror love feels harmonious, but is ultimately sterile because no real complement takes place. Or he chooses a woman who embodies what he idealizes in himself. Her admiration nourishes his grandiosity fantasies. Many women are attracted to narcissistic men because they can initially be very intense and attentive. The narcissistic man in the conquest phase is often charming, generous, and completely focused on his target. This intensity is often mistaken for great love. Actually, it's the energy of self-confirmation. He's not conquering her, but the feeling of his own irresistibility. The drama begins when the woman starts expressing independent needs or criticizing the man. Suddenly, the harmony is disturbed. The narcissistic man can't understand why his partner isn't grateful for the privilege of being loved by him. The partner is unconsciously degraded to a therapist. She's supposed to repair the damaged ego, drive away self-doubts, and nourish grandiosity. This is an impossible task because narcissistic wounds must heal from within. After decades of exploring the human psyche, Freud came to a revolutionary insight. Most people love unconsciously, driven by childhood experiences, projections, and repressed fears. But there's another way. Conscious love is possible, but it requires the courage for self-knowledge and the willingness to accept painful truths about oneself. The first step on this path is recognizing one's own patterns. A man must learn to observe himself like a scientist observes his research object. Why does he feel drawn to certain women? Which qualities does he idealize? Which does he fear? This self-analysis isn't easy because it destroys the illusion of natural attraction. Freud developed a method he called self-analysis. Men can learn to interpret their dreams, spontaneous ideas, and emotional reactions. Does a man repeatedly dream of unreachable women? This could indicate his fear of real intimacy. Does he react with exaggerated jealousy? Perhaps he's projecting his own infidelity fantasies onto his partner. A crucial turning point comes when a man is ready to see his partner as an independent person instead of a projection surface. This means experiencing her differences not as a threat, but as enrichment, understanding her criticism not as an attack, but as information about her needs, appreciating her independence not as betrayal, but as a sign of her vitality. Freud recognized that conscious love contains a paradox. It emerges through letting go. The more a man tries to control or possess a woman, the more she slips away from him. True connection only emerges between two free people who consciously choose each other, anew every day. This process requires confrontation with one's own shadow. Every man carries repressed aspects within him: weakness, neediness, vulnerability. As long as he denies these sides, he'll fight or idealize them in women. Only when he accepts his own vulnerability can he respect his partner's instead of exploiting it. A practical way is developing emotional intelligence. Men can learn to name their feelings instead of converting them into actions. Instead of becoming jealous, they can say, "I'm afraid of losing you." Instead of withdrawing, they can express, "I need time to reflect on what you said." Freud also emphasized the importance of integrating one's own sexuality. Many men split love and desire apart. They idealize pure love and treat sexuality as something dirty or conquering. Conscious love integrates both aspects. Sexuality becomes an expression of connection, not an act of dominance or need satisfaction. An important aspect is healing old wounds. Many masculine relationship patterns emerge as protection against renewed injury. The man who was left by his first love will unconsciously develop strategies to never be so vulnerable again. These protective strategies prevent real closeness. Healing lies in feeling and understanding old pain, recognizing that the current partner isn't responsible for the past. Conscious love also requires willingness to change. Men must accept that true partnership changes them. They're not only confirmed through love, but also challenged, mirrored, and sometimes shaken. This change isn't loss of identity, but growth toward fuller humanity. The path to conscious love is never completed. It's a lifelong process of self-reflection and growth. The reward for this path is immense. Relationships become places of truth instead of illusion, of closeness instead of loneliness. You've taken a journey today into the hidden depths of the masculine psyche. You've discovered how childhood experiences, unconscious projections, and narcissistic patterns shape how men love, and why this love is often so puzzling and painful. Freud's insights aren't just theoretical knowledge, but practical tools for transformation. When you understand that unconscious forces operate behind every relationship conflict, you can stop blaming yourself or desperately trying to understand illogical behavior. You can begin responding with compassion and clarity instead of confusion and hurt. The truth is, every man carries the potential for conscious love within him. But this potential can only be realized through self-knowledge and the courage to change. Your task isn't to repair men, but to recognize who's ready for real encounter and who's still trapped in unconscious patterns. These insights can change your life. You can learn to read the signals men unconsciously send. You can understand why some relationships are doomed from the start, while others enable real growth. You can stop feeling responsible for masculine projections and start demanding authentic connections. Freud believed that becoming conscious is the first step toward healing. What works in darkness loses its power when brought into light. The unconscious patterns you've learned about today can only play their destructive game as long as they remain unrecognized. Which hidden truth about love will change your life when you fully understand and live it? Write in the comments which country you're watching from today. It's fascinating to see how Freud's insights touch people around the world, and if these glimpses into the human psyche have deepened your understanding of relationships, give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more discovery journeys into the secrets of the soul.